This week's podcast is a listener request. She wanted to know our top 10 tips for a low maintenance and organized home. Well, your wish is our command.
You're listening to the Declutter Hub podcast, bringing you tried and tested, no-nonsense tips and advice from the leading experts in decluttering and organising your home. Now here are your hosts, Ingrid Jansen and Leslie Spellman.
Hello and welcome, listeners. I'm Ingrid.
And I'm Leslie.
If you're new to the Declutter Hub podcast, you're so welcome. What you'll find is that we try and find a fun factor in the serious business of decluttering. And if you've been here for a while, you know exactly what we mean. So thank you so much for listening.
If you'd like to get involved in conversations relating to this podcast, it all takes place in our Facebook group. So come and join our lovely, warm, supportive community. To find the Facebook group, go to declutterhub.com/group to find out more. Or you can search for the Declutter Hub community on Facebook.
Oh, Leslie, I do love a 10 Things podcast. I mean, thinking about the 10 things cheers me up. Chatting about the 10 things cheers me up. And all the feedback from our listeners cheers me up because they send us in lists of the things they have or have not have or their thoughts about things. I love it.
I'm seeing a sort of a sense of needing to be cheered up, Ingrid. Are you feeling a little bit down today? I mean, to be fair, we've got the lurgy, both of us. We've got the lurgy. So we are like, oh, but I know. I'm terrible. You know, if I'm ill, I'm a real moaner. You know how people talk about man flu and stuff? I'm like the female equivalent of man flu. Like I'm terrible as a patient. I don't get ill very often, but when I do, I'm like, oh, I feel terrible. I'm like such a moaner. Honestly, everyone knows to steer well clear. I don't feel that bad, but I do feel a bit bunged up and I'm a bit croaky, which I'm sure that people will be hearing.
I know, you do sound a little bit lower than normal. I mean, I can't breathe through my nostrils, so you never know what's like. If I sound a bit weird, it's because I'm just trying to breathe through my mouth and I can't use my nose at all.
I know, exactly. So it's nice to have. I thought to myself, yeah, let's do this listener request. Really nice for her to have written in and say, this is what I really want you to talk about, Ingrid and Leslie. And first of all, we were like, but we do that all the time. But what it's done is it's forced us to go, we've got hundreds of tips for a low maintenance organized home is the bottom line. Like we could keep on going. You know, we're 300 podcasts in nearly talking about top tips for a low maintenance home. So for us to have to condense our thoughts into our top 10 tips, it's quite the undertaking. So we've been planning, we've been thinking, we've been discussing, we've not been arguing, I don't think.
No.
And we have our top 10 tips.
Yeah, it's a really good list. So let's get cracking because we know we always get sidetracked in a 10 things podcast. So, and this is the 10 top tips one. So yeah, a bit of a tongue twister, but never mind. Let's start cracking with number 1. And I came up with this and I thought, oh, I know it sounds a bit harsh, but the thing is, if you want a low maintenance organized home, you're going to have to change your mindset, I think, about chores and housework and things like that. Because let's face it, nobody wants to do housework. Some people love it more than others. I don't mind it, but it's not like, hey, let me hoover my house, yay, or hey, let me do the ironing, woohoo. I don't mind it, but I think I just kind of turned the button in my head going, I gotta do it. So I have an option. I'm going to either moan about it every week and go, oh, I'm going to have to do the cleaning and I'm going to have to do the dishwasher and I'm going to have to wipe the sides and I'm going to have to do the mopping and the whole and everything. But I'm like, what is the point? It's just not good for you. And it takes you into a negative spiral. So I basically went, right, I not really love it. It's got to be done. Let's make the most of it. Let's do it efficiently and quickly and make sure I've got the right stuff and all of that. And just let me schedule it in so I can get it out of the way and do the stuff that I want to do. I'm sorry, it sounds like a rant, doesn't it?
No, Do you know what it is? I think it's absolutely perfect. And I think it's the most important thing, as you say, it's a kind of tough love scenario. We're saying to you, moan all you like, it's still sitting there waiting for you. And if you tackle it with a more positive mindset, which is, well, not positive, but just more an accepting, don't try and fight it. Just accept that it's part of what you have to do every week, boring as it might seem, and just get on with it. I think
Yeah.
that's what you've got to do. And as soon as you have that acceptance rather than that fight all the
Yeah.
time, people fight it. This is the problem and go, it's almost as if it's like a completely separate thing that's over there. Do I prefer to do my housework than go out with my friends and have a glass of wine? Of course, I prefer to go out with my friends and have a glass of wine. But I think I just accept that that's something that just needs to be done. And once you get yourself into that place, then that's half the battle done, isn't it, Ingrid?
Yeah. I mean, it's a bit like after dinner, you just do the washing up. It's like you immediately do the washing up. You wipe your hob or your stove or your cooker or whatever you call it. You give the sides in the kitchen a bit of a clean. You throw out some of the bits of rubbish. You put the stuff back in the cupboards, and it just makes a massive difference.
It's interesting because I was listening to a podcast actually, and I said that in the last one I was listening because I listen to podcasts all the time, by the way.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
it was actually all about it was a kind of health positive, that kind of vibe. And it was with Greg Wallace, right, from MasterChef.
yeah,
Did you ever
yeah.
watch MasterChef, right?
Oh yeah,
And I don't really watch MasterChef that often. It's a UK program, but I think he's in the MasterChef Australia as well, actually, right? So I feel like he is an internationally known person. Maybe not in the States and Canada, but I feel Australia and the UK he is. But he was very kind of disparaging about, well, you just got to get on and do it. It was about nutrition and, and all that kind of stuff. But I think the difference between what we're saying now and what he was saying, he was like, well, he was definitely of it. Everybody's got the same 24 hours in a day. And yes, everybody does have 24 hours in a day, but people have more pulls on their time than others. And so it's not quite as simple as going, everything's the same and everything's equal, because it isn't. But you still have to get yourself in a place where if you want to have a healthy body and move, you've got to eat the right things and you need to get yourself into that mindset. It might take a while. It might be more difficult for some than others. Same with doing chores. You've got to just start to sort of tread that path of working stuff out. That's the thing. But you've got to want it. You've got to want the low maintenance organized home in order to get yourself shifted into that place of, I've just got to do it. It's
yeah,
just, you got to do it. Boring, but you got to do it. But yeah,
yeah,
but I did turn off and talk, going back to Greg Wallace. I didn't like his what he was saying, because there seemed to be no empathy in the way that he was understanding other people. So
mhm,
we are very empathetic about all the pulls and struggles that people have to get to
yeah,
this point.
yeah,
But nevertheless, regardless of the struggles, if you want low maintenance and organized home, ultimately you have to find a way to do it, don't you?
yeah,
And
yeah,
it all starts with that positive reframe in your mindset. So a good one, Ingrid. It wasn't on my list, but it was up there on yours. So
yeah.
well, your number one.
Thank you, thank you. So let's go down to number 2, and that is delegate. If you can, if there are other human beings walking around in your house, delegate some stuff. You're not in a hotel where you are the one who has to do everything. If you have a partner, husband, wife, children, people helping, living in, visiting all the time. I mean, even with like very regular visitors, some people have very regular visitors, and you chip in, you can ask them nicely. You can kind of nudge them. You can say, give me a hand. You don't have to go, can you please? With your kids, you can, I think, in my opinion, but you give them chores. And you're like, that's your job. But delegate some stuff. And if there's nobody to delegate things to, outsource some stuff
If you can.
if you
Again, not
can.
everybody can. Not everybody can.
Yeah,
So not everybody can pay for help. But
yeah,
if you can, don't close that door to yourself. It might
yeah,
be, I prefer doing this. I'm better at this. I'll feel more positive in my mindset if I outsource the cleaning, for example, every week. Just knowing that is a huge weight off people's shoulders. The amount of people that we work with who love a cleaner, but the clutter is stopping. The clutter is the thing that's stopping them from getting a cleaner. It's not the financial ability to pay. It's a little bit of shame, a little bit of embarrassment, a bit of like it's just throwing good money after bad, all that kind of thing. And so, think about delegating or work towards it.
Yeah.
Now, outsourcing is different. So outsourcing, if you want a cleaner, for example, to do a good job, then you need to kind of do the decluttering first. Otherwise, they're just going to struggle. Delegation, just jumping back to Ingrid's earlier point about mindset, you really have to get into the mindset of it being non-negotiable for other people. So you have to force them to have a similar mindset as you. Like, kids, I might have done things for you for the past 5 years, but things are changing around here now. And so now, even though it's really hard, and we've spoken about it before, because sometimes you're like, it's just easier for me to do it myself. You have to get into that mindset of, no, I need to train them. I need to nag them. I need to keep reinforcing the idea that this is something that they have to do over and over and over and over, which is basically what has to happen, so that you can then long-term change everybody in the home's mindset and make everybody accountable for what's going in the home. So really, really important. But again, it takes a while to change your mindset, to change their mindset. So, but I think that's really important.
Yeah, for sure. Because I think, if you want a low maintenance and organized home to last, everybody needs to be on board. It can't just be you who's responsible, because that's impossible if you've got several people living in your house. Well, let's go to number 3 then. This was also on my on my hit list, Leslie. I think it's really important to have good equipment in your house. Now, you might wonder, what does she mean? I can have a good low maintenance and organized home because the equipment that I have at home works. And with equipment, I mean, I have a Hoover that works properly, that hoovers properly. How often do we come into homes where the Hoover is not working properly, or the bag is full up, or the filters have never been changed, or what, if there's a blockage that's not been resolved? Good Hoover, super important.
And maintained Hoover. You know how to change your filters and all that kind of stuff as well. Right?
Yeah. With good equipment, I mean, having a good mop and bucket, and not something that's fallen apart, or that's so it has been used for so long that it's falling apart. Because the reason is, all these jobs are annoying, but if you then have to use equipment that's faulty or not really functioning properly, the job is even harder, and you then procrastinate longer to actually do it. Same with an ironing board. When was the last time you changed the cover? Ironing, is really can be really a chore for some people. I don't mind it that much, but I make sure my ironing board cover is getting a bit like brown and yucky looking, I'm like, oh, this job suddenly becomes a bit, let me get a new one. Of course, when it's broken, not when it's in good condition, obviously. I don't just willy-nilly replace ironing board covers all the time. But you need to make sure that what you have in your home works good. Same with maintenance on your washing machine, maintenance on your dishwasher. If you want these machines to do a good job for you, you have to maintain and keep them in good condition so they can do a better job for you and make your life easier.
I think jumping back to the equipment side of things, I think what they create is barriers. And so you can get, all equipment is not equal. So people, this is something that happens all the time, which we fight against very vocally if we can. When a t-shirt has become old and people go, oh, that'll be useful for a dishcloth or a tea towel. It's not designed to be a dishcloth or a tea towel. It's designed to be a t-shirt. And so whilst it might be useful to mop up some oil, it's not going to be great to wipe your sides in your kitchen. Do you know what I mean? For that, you probably need a more substantial cloth, or a microfiber cloth, or something like that. If you've got a mop from a kind of a low-cost shop, it might be very, very heavy. It might start rusting, and these things, if you've got a really heavy mop, or one that doesn't go into the wringer properly, or the wringer thing is broken and it snaps, and all of these things are barriers which psychologically stop you from getting those things out and using them. Same with the, if your Hoover is not picking up properly, you go, "Well, what's the point?" And so I may as well just leave it, you know. So it's about investing the time into
Yeah.
maintenance, you know, it's investing wisely into getting good, solid equipment, which ultimately you probably, if you invest once and invest well, it will last you, as opposed to some of the cheaper things that are out there where you've probably got to continue to replace them.
Yeah.
So I think things like that, we definitely will go down the route of, if you can, of course, you know, try to invest more wisely in these things and keep them maintained. You know, a lot of times, you know, I go to clients' houses and then the Hoover bags are full, or one of the nozzles has gone missing, or they can't find it, or, you know, all of those things are things
Or
that are
things are
barriers.
taped up with, like,
Yeah.
the strong tape keeping it all together, and it's like, what's wrong? Oh yeah, there's a massive tear in the hose of the Hoover, so I've put tape around it. I'm like, okay. We work with what we've got, but long term it just always makes these chores harder, doesn't it?
I know, just think about back in the day, you know, think about back about like my grandma and granddad, you know, and the way that they had to do their washing, you know, with like, there was some kind of a machine, but it's having to, you know, there was no dryers, there was no, you know, if you wanted to um polish things, you had to do it on your hands and knees, you had to do the floor on your hands and knees. All these things are new. And how lucky are we to be able to have access to these equipment that speed up the process? But ultimately we need to have the right stuff. So I am firmly behind your number 3, Ingrid. You've put a lot into this 10 things this week,
I
haven't
know,
you?
I know. I kind of, this is my bag. I kind of really got delighted by this one. So, number 4, Leslie. Oh, the good old donation station. We love a donation station. Very important for a low maintenance organized home.
Definitely. Let's explain what that is to anybody who's not familiar with the term donation station. So basically, a donation station, no, start again. A donation station is put in place once you have done the bulk of your decluttering. So if you are going through a big decluttering journey and you're taking out 4 or 5 bin bags of stuff a day, that's not the time for you to use your donation station. A donation station comes later when your house is more or less done. And it is designed for you to have an easy place for you to put things as you find them while you are working on probably the chores in your house, and you find something and think, oh, actually, that dishcloth is a little bit rubbish. I'm just going to get rid of it. And probably that's not something that it could go into rags, right? So you could put that into your donation station. If you find a sock with holes in, that can go into your donation station. If you find something that you want to send to the charity shop, it can go into your donation station. And then at some point, you've got enough to take a bag down to the charity shop or the thrift shop. It's really handy because although if you don't have something like that, a designated spot for the things that you want to donate, what means is that you don't gather things to donate. And so therefore, this clutter that's hanging around that you could be taking from one place and putting it in your donation station as a temporary measure, of course, always as a temporary measure, is still sitting around your house rather than going to its kind of action spot. So a donation station is almost getting it to the point of action. So it might not go out, you know that we're big advocates when you're doing a big declutter to offload the stuff that you've decluttered on the day, if all possible. But once you start to, like our house, in my house, Ingrid's house, we don't need to be going to the charity shop every day or every week. We might only go every 2 months or 3 months, and we're gathering the stuff in the donation station in the interim period. All it needs to be is a little box, a little basket, something down the side of your sink, something in your laundry room if you've got one, in your utility room, underneath the bed, whatever it can be, anything, it can be anywhere, but just an easy box or bag for you to put something in that you can take things to the charity shop from.
Absolutely. We love a donation station. Essential for me. So a great number 4. Now let's go to number 5. Oh, yeah, I like this one. You came up with this one, Leslie. Done is better than perfect.
Absolutely, Ingrid. It is better to have things done than have them perfect. People in the chores, in the low maintenance, organized home, the cleaning, all of those things, procrastinate terribly. And sometimes it's because there's perfectionism coming into play. Now, we've talked about having good equipment, which you could argue is more perfectionist, to be fair, but that's just for us, that's just a basic requirement to get things done. But then once you go through them, just try and get through the week, through your chores. Every chore that you do is not going to be absolutely perfect week on week, but you can tackle it again next week and give it a little bit more of a go. So done is always better than perfect. We're not looking for perfectionism here. We're looking for the jobs to get done and the chores to get ticked off your list.
Yeah, I think it's the same. We see it both in chores, in tidying, in decluttering. If I can't do the whole room, I can't find the time to do the whole room. And I'm like, but don't do the whole room then. Do one side cupboard, do one drawer, do one shelf, do one wardrobe, whatever it is. Because if you're going to wait for the perfect time, it will never come. You're better off to get started and doing something a little bit every day than to wait for all the stars to align. Same with cleaning. A lot of people don't really like cleaning their bathroom, for example. And then they leave it and leave it and leave it and leave it. And then it becomes this 3-hour job because then they have to get the toothbrushes out and you know what I mean? And just get the hoover and the cleaning and the cloths and the whole thing and all the strong equipment and all. Well, if you would have just wiped your sink, every couple of days and gotten the toothpaste out, you would have really saved yourself a big job there. So don't try to do everything. Don't wait for everything, everything around it to be perfect. Do a little bit at a time. And the more you get on top of both decluttering, tidying, and cleaning, the easier it will be to have that low maintenance and organized home. That's a process you have to go through.
Absolutely.
Well, let's go for a break because we've got another 5 to go after the break. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. We're giving you 10 top tips for a low maintenance and organized home. Before the break, we already had the first 5 done. So it's time for number 6. A place for everything and everything in its place. But it's true. Everything in your home needs to have a place where it lives. Because if it doesn't have a home, it's out somewhere, on the floor, on the side, on a flat surface. And then it just kind of disappears in the vortex because then you don't have that visibility anymore. So you can't find it again unless you have almost like a photographic memory of where you put everything down. And then things get put on top of other things and then things completely disappear. So having a place for everything is crucial.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you just can't put things away if they've not got a designated home. And that's when we start to have these kind of clutter hot spots and junk drawers and, like dishes in the kitchen where everything kind of gets thrown in, or little piles on the end of the kitchen work surface. That's because things have not got a designated place.
Yeah.
It could be because, so there's 2 parts to that quote: a place for everything and everything in its place. You have to start with a place for everything first, because only then can you then put everything back in its place. So where is it falling down? Is it falling down at the creation of the place for everything, about the thinking about the logic, the accessibility, the visibility, the decluttering, having the right amount of stuff? That's all sort of together in a place for everything. And then everything in its place is all about the tidying, the routines, the resets, and all that kind of stuff. It just makes things so easy. Ingrid and I spend very little time in a week tidying up because it's just, there's all the things that have become out of place. Let's put them, let's move them, let's carry them upstairs, and let's put them straight away. There's no soul searching. There's no, oh, well, I put it there and that doesn't look tidy. Everything goes away. Everything's got a place. It fits where it goes and it belongs where it goes. And that's the key to all of a decluttering and organizing journey. But it can be difficult to get to that place. And so, the listener who asked for this question said the top tips for a low maintenance and organized home. And we're giving them to you. We're talking very much about chores. But before you get to that point, you've got a whole load of work to do on the decluttering, categorizing, and organizing of your home to be able to facilitate the opportunity for you to do chores, to make this task low maintenance and to keep your home organized. So whilst all these tips are designed for towards the end of your journey, once all of the kind of foundation stones are in place.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not as simple as a top 10 tips, really, if we're honest, but we are moving towards the end of that process and saying, once everything is put in place, these are things that you need to do to kind of, you know, to really fine tune it and make it amazing.
Yep, definitely. Let's move on to number 7, Leslie. Little and often. And that's really true. We were making this list and I said, I'm tidying up all the time. But because I do it all the time, when something is out of place, I don't leave it. I pick it up and I put it where it belongs. And I do this all the time automatically without even thinking about it. Little jobs, but all the time, often. Because that will save you that pile up of stuff that then takes forever and ever to sort out of an evening or over the weekend. So I already try to kind of do this, you know, when I come in, when I'm at home, when I walk from upstairs to downstairs, I'll take something with me. You know, if there's, I don't know, a toilet roll to be recycled in the bathroom and it's put on the side, the next time I've been in the bathroom and I see that, I grab it and I'm on my way down and I put it in the recycling bin. I don't even think about that as a chore or as tidying. It's just so in my psyche that I automatically do it. But it saves me so much time later or over the weekend to make sure that my house, that everything, I know where everything is. So the key really is little but often, and not these gigantic whole weekends we need to now block to get everything sorted here. Build on the little and often principle.
And I think, again, you know, like we were talking about with a place for everything and everything in its place, you know, little and often is going to come later. So people like probably go, oh, I like the idea of little, don't like the idea of often that much. But before you get to that place, you do have to do these. We don't have, you know, we're not big adverts that go doing whole weekends, but if you feel able to do that, then it's going to get you to the final place a little bit quicker. But I think that you've got to know that you've got to put the groundwork in, then you can work towards this little and often principle. You know, are you as a kind of disorganized, generally disorganized people who are listening to this are probably a little bit more chaotic, a little bit disorganized. These things don't come naturally. We need to be honest, these things, you know, Ingrid and I are professional organizers. These things come very naturally to us. And so they happen as a matter of course as we're going about our daily business. And some people need to work harder towards that. But we have seen colossal changes in people putting these strategies in place to a point where they had a very chaotic life. And now they're at the stage that Ingrid and I are at, which is where we see something. It's all about seeing it. So you've got an almost like a radar. You know, Ingrid's got a radar to see that empty toilet roll in the bathroom to bring it down. You know, I've got a radar now, which means that I can walk into this room at the end of the day. If I walk out and I'll see there's a glass here and there's a cup of tea. And so I might walk out because I might get distracted by something or whatever. But as soon as I come in, I'll see that and then I'll take it straight out because I don't want to, because it'll be like a sort of reset or a refresh. But we see these things and it's getting to that stage. But it's very difficult to see these things before you've allocated a place for everything and before you put everything in its place, isn't it, Ingrid? It's so interlinked, which is why at the beginning of this podcast, when somebody said, what are your top 10 tips? It's like, that's a really hard question because there are hundreds, if not thousands of components to getting this right. And, you know, we make no secret of the fact that, you know, that all of the things that we teach things from the ground up, and it's not easy. There's no quick fixes in the Declutter Hub, none. Like there's no quick fixes. We're like, you want to put the groundwork in, you've got to do the work, you've got to learn about the emotions habit, you've got to take things one step at a time, you've got to find the right place for something that makes sense from a size perspective, from a storage perspective. Then you've got to put your resets and routines in place. You've got to work out your non-negotiables. And then ultimately you'll get to a stage where you are not a slave to your home, which is where we want you all to get. You know, we want you all to get the same place that Ingrid now. We've still got clutter. We're not perfect homes, far from it. I'm going to do some stuff this weekend. You know, I've got plans in place. I'm going to start fine tuning things, but it won't be that bad, you know, because it's mostly okay. We're always going to be decluttering, but it's about understanding it so you can get, you know, that should be everybody's goal, is to get to a stage where I see little bits of clutter as I'm going about my daily business and I deal with it as a matter of course without even thinking that it's a chore. To get to a stage where you don't even think that something is a chore is where we want to get to, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think as well, that's what what we see in the membership as well, isn't it, Leslie? I think people come in, they listen to the podcast, they maybe come into the Facebook group, but then they realize, wow, getting decluttered and organized, I need more. I need more information. I need more help. I need more support. I need more accountability. I need more knowledge. And that's exactly what people come into for the membership, and we give that to them and then some. And everybody was so many of our members have said, oh my gosh, there's so much more in your membership than I ever thought was possible. You really explain it from the ground up, as you said before. You need to know the basics before. You can't run if you can't walk, right? You need to kind of go, right, how am I going to figure this out here? And by scheduling a weekend and doing a massive decluttering in one room and being completely overwhelmed, completely counterproductive of what we're teaching and what we're all about. So this is really I agree with you, Leslie. These top tips are all about for the later stages, but super fun to talk about anyway, because this is where we want people to go, right?
Yeah.
And number
all of these things are the goal, aren't they?
Yeah.
There's a little bit of like, you've got to do a few little things to put the groundwork in place, but the goal is to have a low maintenance organized home. And
Yeah.
it takes time and effort to get there. If you're coming from a place of chaos, which a lot of people are in our world.
Yeah, yeah. And I think number 8 is kind of very linked to number 7, the little and often. And that is number 8, don't put it down, put it away. When you've been cooking, put the chopping boards and the knives away in the dishwasher if they need washing. Put the packet of sauce that you've used, and there were maybe 2 packets in one thing, put the other one back in the cupboard. When you have come in from, I don't know, grocery shopping, and you've put all of your food away in your fridge, in your freezer, and in your pantry, put the bags either back in the car or in the cupboard where the bags live. Finish the job. If you put it down and walk off and go somewhere else, you forget about it, you get distracted, and later you have to come back and go, oh yeah. And then it takes you more time. By doing something straight away, when you come in, take your coat off and hang it up on the coat rack immediately. Don't
Not on the back of a chair, not on a banister.
Yeah.
My whole family does, even though it's like loads of options. I'm like, that sort of things drives me insane.
Yeah, yeah. But it's with everything, isn't it, Leslie? It's really to have that habit of, I'm going to do it here and now. If a job, I think somebody said, if a job takes less than 2 minutes, do it there and then. Because if you put it down and walk off, it's going to take you longer. And I think that's something that I do a lot as well, of this list and how I stay on top of stuff at my house.
So let me ask you a question. Are you a controlled cook? Are you constantly putting things away as you're cooking?
Yeah.
I see, I'm erratic, of course, as you might imagine. But I'll always put it away once I'm done. But I'll bring everything out. So, some people might, I want a pinch of, I don't know, paprika or whatever. Bring the thing from the thing, put the paprika, and some people would put it straight away. Whereas I'll bring all of the things, then I'll cook, and then once there's a bit of cooking, then I'll start to put things away.
Yeah.
And I'll definitely put it all away once I'm done. But I think Nathan is like, honestly, when he cooks, and it's my youngest son, and he's a great cook, but honestly, you want to see the kitchen. And it's really hard, isn't it, when they're learning, and he's so enthusiastic. And I just think it's such a fantastic thing as a 21-year-old lad to be able to cook these beautiful meals that he does. So we kind of let it go. So I'm not as erratic as him, because he would have everything out, everything. And I'm like, okay, the cleanup is quite big in this, but I've got to kind of go through. It's like the same things we talk about with the delegation. You have to allow learning from other people, don't you, as well? You know what I mean? So it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Do you say, I want to put some things away, Nate? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not every single herb and spice that we own out at the same time. But anyway, so don't put it down, put it away. So I think you're probably really good. I'm probably, by most people's standards, quite good. Nathan's probably not too bad, because he would tidy up after he had done it. But then some people would just give up because it looks so kind of hideous when it's all out, and if it's time has elapsed and things like that.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So I think that's a very important one in the list of the 10 top tips. Let's go to number 9, Leslie. Non-negotiables. Yes, they're back. We talk about non-negotiables on a very regular basis on this podcast, but for us, they are crucial to keep your house tidy and organized and clean. And non-negotiables are different for every person. For example, a couple of my non-negotiables are loading the dishwasher every day, unloading the dishwasher every day, bringing the recycling out to the recycling bins, emptying the bins, wiping the kitchen sides, all of those kinds of, we do those daily. And there's no man overboard if one day it suddenly doesn't happen, but it's so an ingrained habit. It's really something really crazy must have happened for the non-negotiables not to happen, right? It's just something that we do. We tidy up after breakfast, after lunch, after dinner. The sides get wiped, so the next thing can happen. And, those help, I think, incredible.
I think in terms of non-negotiables, and so, we talk about these in a kind of, a general way. But I think if this is something that you've never really thought about, it's important to put the groundwork in to really think about them. So, and to time them and to write them down and to use a list in the first instance. So we have non-negotiables checklists and things like that in our membership, because it takes time to build habit. And so you need to remind yourself. So you might think today, oh, well, these are the non-negotiables that I want in my kitchen every morning, wipe the work surface, put the dishwasher on, whatever that might be, clean the dog bowl or whatever. So you've got to work that out. It's also important for you to think about how long that is likely to take you, so that you know that the plans that you're putting in place are achievable and realistic. Really, really important. But use those tick lists until it starts to become habit. Do you know what I mean? We don't need to think about these things because they've been our non-negotiables for so long that we don't need to think about it anymore. But if this is a habit that you're trying to change, write these things down, time them, go, the loading the dishwasher. Because I just think that we mistakenly, we underestimate or overestimate often how long these things are going to take. So these things become this huge chore when they're not at all. How many times have we put something off and then go, I've been putting that off for so long, and actually it just took me 10 minutes, it was fine. So really, really important to give yourself a chance to analyze and evaluate your non-negotiables and really think them through.
Yeah.
Think about other people in the house. Look at the non-negotiables list and go, okay, if I've got a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old, which of these non-negotiables can they help me with? Might be a pain, might be awkward, might take 10 minutes. You might have to kind of, we all know what that looks like with kids right after dinner and stuff. You might be too tired to do it, but get it into their non-negotiables. So they know as soon as they step up from that dinner table, they've got to bring their plate up and put it in a certain place, or they've got to empty the bins, or whatever it is that you're asking them to do. Load the dishwasher if they're a little bit older, and think about all those things. So give yourself an opportunity to change those habits by writing down those non-negotiables on a tick list.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Crucial to stay organized. Well, Leslie, we've had 9 of our 10 top tips. So let's go to number 10. And I know it sounds maybe a bit obvious, but it really is so true. Have less stuff. And it's a game changer. Less stuff really equals, less stress, more time, more space, more energy, more time to do stuff with the things, people that you want to hang out with. Having less stuff is the game changer. It's yes, you need to have a place for everything, but still, if your cupboards are over full and things fall out when you open the doors, then you still have too much stuff. It really is incredibly important if you want to have a low maintenance and organized home to get a grip of that control of that stock that you have, and that you have less stuff coming in, and make sure that the exit plan keeps going with the donation station.
So important. It's the crux of everything that we've spoken about. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The less stuff you've got, the less stuff you've got to clean, so it's just really basic, but really obvious and very kind of life-changing. So having less, the effect that has is colossal on all areas of your home. Like you say, you can find places to put everything. Your storage is not overflowing, which saves you time. It's not as stressful. There's less stuff for you to don't put it down, put it away, because it might not need to get put down because you haven't got it. So just have less. And so it all starts with the decluttering process.
Yeah. And I think what we've really realized by doing this list of these 10 things, it's just really important. It's never, we know, Leslie, it's never about the stuff and the nice containers. It's all about that mindset shift and those habits that you put into place when you're decluttering and organizing your home. Like you said, all these things come after you've decluttered, categorized, organized, and put it away. Then you can put all of these steps one-on-one in place, and it will all fall into place. But if your house is bursting at the seams with stuff, these 10 things might sound very, very difficult to do. And you probably would be right. This is feasible if there's less stuff. So, and we're not advocating a minimalist lifestyle whatsoever at all. We have things in our houses as well. But I think it's really important to realize that we don't need so much. And that if we have less stuff, we really get more time and more energy, more money, more space, more everything.
Yeah, I've quite enjoyed it. I think it's reset our thoughts. And I think the more we've gone through the 10 things, I just think it's quite complex, isn't it, to get to this stage? But it's where we all want to be. It's the reason why we want to go on a decluttering journey, ultimately, is for a low maintenance and organized home. So thank you so much to the listener. Ingrid, do we even know who the person is, what the name of the person is who called in?
Well, you're calling me out a little bit here, Leslie, because normally I'm very good at taking notes, but
100% Ingrid's job. 100% Ingrid's job.
Yes, I made a faux pas here because I did not write this listener's name down, because we could have said, well, thank you, Trudy or Lisa or Karen.
Margaret. So we're just going to imagine what the name is. We know it was a female, that much we know, right? Okay, that's all we know. So if you are a female listener out there and you suggested this podcast to us, thank you so much. It was lovely for you to do it. And actually, the interesting thing is, if you also have a question for us, we've got something exciting coming up, because in 2 episodes' time, we have episode 300. And every time we do what we consider to be a kind of landmark podcast, which come honestly fast and furiously, no sooner have we done episode 250 landmark podcast than it's now at 300. Well, actually 50 episodes ago. And so we were thinking about, what can we do differently? So this time we're involving you, Ingrid.
Oh, Leslie, I am so excited about podcast episode 300. Can you even believe it? I mean, I know every time we say that with every kind of 50 episodes, but it's like, wow. Anyway, never mind. We had an amazing idea. We were like, right, we need to ask our listeners to submit questions to us, because we would love to know what you want to know. Have you got a decluttering and organizing question you would love to have us answer? Now is your chance. So in the show notes of this podcast, we're going to put the details in, because what you need to do is you need to send us a video with your question, and then we're going to answer 10 listeners' questions in the podcast episode 300. So yeah, let's be honest, this is not going to be 30 minutes, right? It's probably going to be a bit longer than that if we're going to answer 10 questions, but I'm excited about it.
Yeah, don't worry about the video situation, because it's very easy. We've got a great piece of software that'll make it easy for you to record a video. But we do go out on YouTube, so you need to be happy to broadcast yourself to the world. So yeah, so that's it. So we're excited. We're excited to get questions from our listeners. What are they going to ask us?
I know.
Well, if we can't answer them, we just won't do those ones, right?
If they're too personal, then we might take them out.
Yeah, if you've actually got feedback for us, do that separately. And all the thing is, we might not make it to the 300th episode. So anyway, that'll be exciting, and that's coming up in 2 episodes' time.
I know. So yeah, I'm so ready for that. I love it. And we love you, our lovely listeners, for being here, for listening to us week in, week out. Thanks so much. And don't forget to hit that follow or subscribe button on your player so you don't miss that, especially that 300th episode, because we don't want you to miss out. Now, lastly, let us know what of these 10 top tips is going to be really workable for you. What are you going to implement? We want to know from you. Leave us a comment or leave us a comment on YouTube. We listen and read to everything that you send us. So thank you so much. We appreciate you and we hope to see you next week.
Thanks so much for listening to the Declutter Hub podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to us in your podcast player so you don't miss an episode, and we'll see you next week.